Ooh, 3,000 to the face. Ooh, I missed you. I missed you again somehow. GG, dude. Hello and welcome back. You are gaming with me, Brothgar, and I just got done playing the first 4.5 hours of The Division. Kind of want to give you my thoughts on the game as this impressions has gone. Since I have done the beta, I've done both the open and closed beta of the game, and we've seen more or less the same content in the two of them, except for one extra mission there in the open beta. However, what are my thoughts here now that the official game has come out and I've played through that same amount of content and a little bit more? Now, in the past betas, we've started off in this helicopter. Something just happened and we don't really know what it is. However, what the official release does here is it gives us a lot of the backstory that we didn't have in the betas, which is actually kind of nice because, I mean, I even went into the game not knowing much about the game and ended up having absolutely no idea why this city is sick and why we've even been activated as whatever these super soldiers are to come and try to save this city. However, we start off right in Brooklyn and we start doing some basically training sort of scenarios to get you used to the game, and it gives you a little bit of the backstory with some cutscenes and some videos right at the beginning, and we also learn about what the explosion is that it seems like we had when they mentioned that was our ride in. So that's nice. We answered some questions there that I still had about the game. Do you know what? It made you feel like you were jumping into this world that actually does need your help, as opposed to just being dropped into it and without much purpose. So that was cool. However, after that, we got dropped off more or less right where the open beta was initially. So you run in, you set up your base, you kind of run through your first mission, and then you go ahead and do the fire mission. The one things I was trying to do though in the official release as opposed to what I did in the beta is I tried to play every mission with people. And I gotta admit, the missions were definitely better with a crew going in there and smashing and shooting everything up than it was when I was playing all by myself. A lot more interesting. Granted, you couldn't do the same tactics, so you kind of had to think a little bit differently. However, one major issue I ran into on like the first tech mission, I can't think of the name of it right now, but the one with the flamethrowers, where you get introduced to all the guys with flamethrowers and whatnot, is I ended up getting to the end of the mission, and then somehow there was an error, and it kicked me out, and we went all the way back once we all basically reloaded, and we had to start the mission all over again. So I got to the very end, once again, chilling in the boss area where we're just about to spawn in, somebody leaves the party, and it resets the whole freaking thing again. That pissed me off so much I walked away from the game for a few minutes, even though I was live streaming it. Anyhow, I ended up getting into another party and I ran through it. It was just fine. I don't know what it was. I ended up maybe a little bit of glitch with the party system. I'm not sure, but that was really annoying. Once we got out of that, there was many more things to do. We opened up into different possibilities. Now, normally in both the closed beta or in the open beta, once you went through either of those first missions, I should say, you would be able to get to the dark zone. It opened up at level 5. However, now that I was looking on the map, it seems like the dark zone only opens up at level 10. So you have to go and do more of these kind of story-based missions in order to really level up fast enough to get into the dark zone. Of course, you can do a lot of side missions as well. And ultimately, there's a lot more map revealed as you would expect. And with that in mind, there's also a lot of other things to do in the game, which is nice. It's nice to see that. Another thing I noticed is that as you're running through the world, you can actually snap onto the next closest mission. It'll give you a recommendation, something pops up on your screen, and you can just kind of divert and go ahead and do that, which is a lot nicer than going to the map to look for something to do, because it just kind of makes you feel like, oh, well, now what do I do? Let me go look at the map. Instead of that, it's kind of, well, you're running around, here's the closest thing. Hey, you want to do that? If so, we'll set a waypoint. And that was a nice touch. I ended up playing one more mission on the docks, and I ended up playing this mission in a party mode on hard. And I gotta tell you what, the difference between normal mode and hard was pretty significant. You step up the difficulty by 2 levels. Now, it wasn't that it was just difficult. I would say more or less the mobs were just the next tier up. So they had a lot more health and they did more damage, more or less. But I don't know if there was any more of them than you would have in the normal mode, but ultimately you had to be a lot more careful. Now my party ended up slugging through it, even though most of them were under-leveled and probably underpowered, considering they were lower levels, and had a hard time getting to the boss. However, we ended up getting to the boss. Unfortunately, we wiped with 3 people, and the guy rage quit. Although myself and my party member stuck with it, ended up fighting the boss again, but this time with only 2 of us. And luckily we were able to be strategic enough and patient enough to actually beat the boss. It ended up being a real sniper battle. I wouldn't say it was all that dynamic once we got to the end of the boss fight, I should say, when there were just a couple of heavy elites just running around with guns and a sniper looking to shoot your head off. I wouldn't say that was really dynamic. We just had to flank it and be careful that you didn't get shot, because if you went down, well, that was pretty much the end of the fight, because I don't think your buddy would be able to help you up, and it took at least 2 people in order to distract enough. Anyhow, that was kind of nice to see that hard mode is indeed quite a bit harder, and there is also a challenge mode for level 30s, so that's cool. Ultimately, what are my personal feelings about the game? Is it exciting? Is it interesting? Well, I gotta admit, for me, it's a lot like I felt in Destiny. It's okay. I'm not gonna say it's the most exciting game I've ever played. If I was to play a game that really interested me right off the bat, something like Far Cry Primal, where you're running through the woods and stabbing, stuff like that, to me, that seemed a little bit more interesting and a little bit more involved. This game seems like it's definitely revolving more around that same idea of, if you're gonna play it, definitely play it with friends. Or at least find parties that you can then team up with and maybe start communicating through the comms. But anyhow, I haven't made it back to the Dark Zone just yet, and there's plenty of missions for me to slug through yet. One crazy thing that happened right off the bat when I spawned into the game, got into the first public kind of lobby area, is I ended up finding a person that looked exactly like me. I don't know what the chances are of that, but it was pretty impressive. If there was one thing that really did disappoint me, it would have to be the lack of people doing jumping jacks. I mean, I thought that was a thing. I thought it was the universal sign of goodwill, jumping jacks, but apparently not. That's just beta users. Everybody else, they're focused on leveling up as fast as you can. Let's slam through these missions, let's get to level 30, and then wonder what in the world we're gonna do. Anyhow, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Stay awesome, guys. Peace. Brothgar out. Yeah, what's up, girl? Let's go for a ride. Oops. Girl, that's not what I thought it would be. Don't hate me. 1 million. There we go. Now we're talking. That's the sound of money if I ever heard it. Woo! It's kind of got a weird ring to it. I'm liking it so far. Billion angels on Mars. Oh! Oh, you would have been the closest thus far. But you guessed on Mars, and now you're too far. Hey man, my rhymes aren't that great, but they're punny, aren't they? But right down there is takeout, so that's new. It's got mustard, pickles, and ketchup all over the place, making it look nice and tasty. No! Hey man, you got a little something right there. What is going on? Oh!